Hello and welcome to this episode of Break Even by Breakfast with me, Mark Sweetman. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Ciaran Brennan, the co-founder and commercial director of Livecosts.com. Ciaran, how are you?
Cool, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming onto the show. So Ciaran, I've been hearing a lot about your business of late, and there's quite a number of articles recently published in the Irish Times and the Business Post, which I found very informative on your business. I did know roughly about what Livecosts.com was trying to do, but there was a really good insight in those articles. But for the people who don't know what Livecosts.com is or haven't heard of you, do you want to just give a brief introduction to yourself and to the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, co-founder, commercial director, founded the company with my brother. I suppose the story of it started when we had our own construction company out in Perth in Australia, and I suppose as we were growing that business, we had a lot of issues around the technology side of things, like really understanding the finances. I suppose would be the I suppose if to talk about the problem. I mean, the problem that we had, it was where do we win, where do we lose money, I suppose. And a lot of construction companies would look at their accounting software to solve that problem for them, like the likes of Xero and Sage. But like the reality of the problem for us was they didn't quite do that. They didn't get into the nitty gritty. So we developed our own system. That system went on to be acquired and give us an introduction, I suppose, into what construction technology could be. So we done a quick scope of the market, had a look to see was there anything else out there, and we eventually, probably 2-3 years nearly down the line now, have landed into Livecosts, which I suppose if you're looking for its elevator pitch would be Livecosts really increases a construction company's profits by exposing their costs in real time. That's the problem we solve, is giving these guys real cost data.
Okay, that's pretty handy, and I'm sure that it's an obvious pain point in the sector, I'm sure. And yeah, when I'm familiar with Sage and Xero myself, and I can see how if you're dealing with complex construction projects, that it probably isn't fit for purpose, that you need something additional on it.
That's the problem we see in the market, to be honest with you. We sort of looked at these systems and we said, okay, Sage, Xero, QuickBooks, really developed for butcher, baker, candlestick maker type situations. And, can they be that detailed on this industry that's a little bit different? There's a lot of moving parts in construction. They move pretty quickly. Budgets are very, very important. So we just looked at that problem and said, well, could we be the plug into them systems? Could we pick up the bits that they miss?
Yeah. And I saw that you said that you, in the first year of trading, you wanted to get up to 500 customers and you managed to get 150, which I think is quite good. But what was the most challenging aspect of getting customers, like from the sales point of view? Was it convincing them of the problem or just pricing, let's say?
So we done, depending on the timing of that article, we done a pretty drastic pivot, whereby we looked at the market as a whole, and we done an analysis in the market, and we basically said, okay, the vast majority of our market are what we call the man in the van type situation, less than 5 staff. Pretty much 70% of the market. Had a look at the UK, pretty similar. States, pretty similar. Australia. So we looked at that and said, okay, to access this market, we really should go into the lower end of the market, look at that problem first, and then look to scale up into, say, the bigger businesses. What we discovered is we looked at the problem that market has and was getting paid. So we developed a piece of technology that could get these guys paid on the go. So we developed a payments app. The technology was fine, but what we discovered when we actually launched into the market was finding these guys and getting to them, getting to the decision maker to make a decision and scale this business was going to be far, far more difficult than we actually envisaged. So we acquired customers early. We got to a point we'd gone through the early stage funding of even at that point, and then we decided to, hey, hang on a second here. This is going to be challenging. This is going to be a lot more challenging than we thought. So the original app was called Payday, helps you get paid. And then we just said, nah, this is going to be far too challenging for us. We need to look at a bigger problem, and a bigger company. So then we sort of pivoted and we rebranded into Livecosts. So that was it was an early scare, to be quite honest with you. Like we'd made one of the big startup errors, to be quite honest, is that we thought we had product market fit figured out far earlier than we actually did. and we invested in our assumptions. So we've invested in technology based on really what was data coming back to us, variable data coming back to us from potential customers saying, yeah, that fixes the problem from us, but no clear evidence of, okay, would they be willing to transact on that? And they weren't. And, and that was an early scare for us, I suppose. We weren't lucky to survive, I would say.
Yeah, and that's your advice going forward to startups, that if you think you have early customers, that they should be able to put their hands in their pockets and pay for your service then. Is that the advice? That's how you know you have a customer.
Absolutely. Because I mean, we would have went to market with this potential solution before we built it, and we would have got clear evidence that this was the way. This was definitely the solution to this problem. Verbally picked up commitments, all of the things that we should do, but we didn't take the final step, which was actually asking these people, okay, well, would you pay for this now, even though I won't have it for you for 12 weeks? And the truth is that we didn't ask that, because that was a really uncomfortable question to ask someone. That in truth could have been fatal to us, to be honest. The second time around was quite different. When we looked at this pivot, we said, if we're solving a big enough problem, people will pay for this. Absolutely no doubt. If it's a big enough problem, they will. And we had to find that problem, and eventually we did, and we were able to get commitments. We were actually able to raise the investment of pre-revenue on that product.
Yeah, and the difference between Paydate and Livecosts is Livecosts more of a sort of B2B, like more enterprise level clients. Yeah,
absolutely. So the payments app would have been suited to sort of up to 5 staff. We found it really difficult to get to the business owner, because the business owner is actually still operating on his tools. Really hard to sort of nail him down and understand. Really hard to get him to use the product for change how he's doing things slightly to use it, even though there's good benefit from it. But I suppose when we looked at the bigger size companies, we're sort of looking in around sort of 5 million, 10 million. These are guys that have project admin staff in place. These are sort of heavy on invoice processing and stuff like that. So it was a larger business.
Yeah, and they can see they can actually measure the costs themselves and say, right, this actually did save us X amount, and it was worth the investment. So yeah.
A key point it's what we give them is completely measurable by the way of they're using an accounting software currently to fix this problem for them, but we give them an easier way, so they can simply measure up, okay, I spend X amount of hours a week inputting data into Sage, whereby if I use this product, it'll actually automate that process for me. So they're getting a clear ROI straight away, which is a big difference.
Yeah. Is your product integrated with Sage or Xero? Yeah, is it
fully
available as an add-on? Yeah, okay, that's
fully. So yeah, we're fully integrated. We have a direct sync across, which is pretty important. Yeah.
Very. I can imagine, because that's one of the positives of those online cloud accounting platforms, is that they are fully integrated with literally hundreds of useful apps suited to any industry, really. So you can get any solution. And just to go on from that sort of from the software point of view of your business, yourself and your brother Niall are not technical founders in the sense of the word, that you don't know how to develop the software itself, but you are the subject matter experts of it. How did you find and how did you manage developing the software itself? Did you outsource it originally, or did you try and find a partner who could work with your company? What advice would you give on non-technical founders of companies?
I would say it is extraordinarily difficult to do it without a tech co-founder. Would be my experience. Now, people have done it quite successfully, but my experience would be that you will do it much quicker and avoid a lot of mistakes by having a technical co-founder. So when we looked at this, we said the best way and the easiest, quickest way of getting this to market would be to go and partner with a development agency, which we did. But you've got to understand with these guys, Mark, is like they have their own business KPIs that they're working to, and you've got yours. And at some point, there's going to be a conflict. At some point, because you're going to want things done yesterday, and you're paying for that, and you've got your expectations as to why things have been delayed. And they've got their own KPIs, and they might have a much bigger account than yours. That account might have a bit of weight behind it, whereby they apply resources when that account needs resources to be applied. Therefore, your project goes on hold, and that can be a problem. So I would suggest and I would recommend that if someone is starting out on a startup journey as a non-technical co-founder, that you explore every option, absolutely every option first, to see can you get that technical co-founder. Option 2 would be bring in a technical advisor. So someone that could oversee the relationship between you and, let's say, your outsourced agency to manage that. Because it was difficult for us. And in fairness to Noel, he Noel also manages the operational business, the financial side of things for us. So he doesn't like to see, he wants to know every single cost that's going in and out of that business. So getting quotes in for bits of software development that he didn't know much about, he very, very quickly educated himself on what that needs to be, into a point now where he's actually developing in the platform. So although we started off as non-technical co-founders, Noel would be the bridge between customer and tech, which has worked out to be very, very valuable. But he's also hugely valuable in terms of actually developing as well. So he's sort of brought himself into that role, I suppose, over the few years. But I mean, it's a difficult, getting a startup off the ground is difficult in any way. If you've got a tech, you've got a founding team of tech, sales, operations, the dream team, right? You've got them all on board. Finance, it's still an enormous task. So getting it off the ground, you're starting up a tech company without a tech co-founder. Like, when I look back,
it's not the best.
Not the best start. No, I have to say, like when I look back on it, I was a bit naive to think that we could do this. And if I was starting again, I probably would, go and work somewhere, go and put my head down somewhere for a year until I found the right guy. That's probably what I do now, looking back. But lucky enough, we found Dermot. Dermot was working on his own startup, and luckily enough, Dermot, he's just a genius when it comes to tech, and he wanted to pin that to a commercial team. He wanted to say, listen, I just want to build tech. So we found them, but I mean, we found them probably a year or so later. We could have saved ourselves a lot of time and a lot of money if we had found Dermot from day one.
And does he? I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but does he own a piece of the company now? Is he invested in it, or is it?
Yeah. So we set up an agreement. Like most investors will want to see. I mean, it's such a key part of the business. How have you incentivized that key part of the business? Like, what would happen if that man was to walk away? And if you're talking about raising investment and going on to raise Series A, like, you want to tie these key people in. I'm always of the impression of, like, it's no point in owning 100% of nothing. I'd much rather own 10-15% of something huge. So giving equity away and having equity conversations for me was never an issue for the right people. But he was absolutely critical to the team, and absolutely we wanted to tie Dermot in long term.
Okay, let's say let's give a scenario. What advice would you give on this scenario? Let's say you have 50,000 and you want to start a tech company. You've got 50,000 an idea. It sounds like you wouldn't go to an outsourced guy to produce the idea. You'd rather hire in and give equity in your company. That's the advice you would give if you're starting from scratch and you're a non-technical founder. You've got capital, got an idea. Hire in, don't outsource. It's better for the long run.
Yeah, which is a task in itself. It isn't the easier road is definitely to go the development road. Software development house is the easier option. Does that 50 grand? Am I allowed to spend that on? Or is that covering wages? Can I take wages out of the question?
Yeah. Can cover wages.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's a challenge. Okay, so what I would do is I would build a database of 100 potential customers who I think this product is for, and I would remove the idea of product from my head, and I would talk about problem. So I take product out of the equation completely and just talk about problem. And what I do is I go and speak to them 100 people as quick as I can on a one-to-one basis as option 1, or as option 2 on a Zoom call, or as option 3 on a phone call. And I would ask them people completely take product out of the equation, completely take, and service could come under product. We package our services up as products. So completely take that off the table and talk about problem. And I would get to the question of what keeps you awake at night. and start there.
Yeah.
And what I would get to is you're going to get a vision in your head of what the problems are. And then eventually, when you get to do this 100 times, you'll be able to map out on a piece of paper what this is and where your solution fits into that. And you will find pretty quickly that what you thought in your head to be a solution will probably be nothing like what you end up with on that piece of paper. Once you get that mapped out after 100 pieces of advice or 100 pieces of feedback, I'd go back to market again with my solution on paper. And I'd say, if I was to build something like that, would that solve that problem? And then I'd give you more feedback. Then what I would do is I'd go on to something like a Upwork or one of them online places, and I would get something that has UI UX experience. So I've got 50 grand to spend. I might spend 3-4 grand in building an InVision. So InVision is a prototyping tool. I would build out a prototyping tool that would give you a product of what this would actually look like, an actual physical working product. That might take.
But it doesn't just. It's a sort of fake app or fake.
Yeah. So it'll bring your idea from paper into either a desktop or an app, and it'll be fully functional. So you can walk through the screens, you can walk through the workflows, and you will end up with what looks like the front end of your solution. I then go back to the 100 customers again, and I'd say, this is what I'm intending to build. What do you think? I think this is around the price that it's going to be worth. What do you think? And then they'll give you enough feedback that it's going to change again. I then go back and I fix it up again. And you can sort of see where this is going. There's absolutely no investment into technology until I fully understand and the customer has given me everything I need around the problem versus the solution. Now that I have that in place, I would then take that and I would ask the customers a question, which is a really tough question, is this is going to be ready in 12 weeks time. And if you really, really want it, you would actually need to commit to it now. And I can only get it out to 10 customers and test the demand, really test the demand. Do they really want it? Was it really a problem? Was it a problem that they could solve maybe eventually? So it's not really a big enough problem. Is it a problem that maybe they looked at and said, yeah, that's a problem for us, but it's not the biggest problem we have at the moment. So how big of a problem it is, and are they willing to transact on that? If you then can get commitments that these guys are willing to pay, and then you've got a lead-in time of, let's say, 12, 18 weeks, whatever it might be, you then have enough validation and enough buy-in where if you can get upfront sales, any investor will invest in that. Then you've got the money to actually go and execute against that idea. Will your customers not be happy because you might not deliver on the 12, 18 weeks potentially? But what's the better option? Building the tech first, put your 50 grand straight into the tech and going out with a solution that doesn't actually work.
Yeah, and it sounds like you don't even need the 50K. You just said 3 or 4 grand on UX basically. So you don't even need 50K. You just need patience, time, and 3 or 4 grand to make a mock-up basically of the product.
And we've done that, and that mock-up was actually enough for us to raise capital off.
Why do you think people jump the gun, so to speak, and dive right into development from an idea without ever doing the market research?
I think there's a couple of things here. And I think from my experience working with, so we've been through a couple of accelerators and stuff like that. And when you meet a technical co-founder, they just want to get into it. They just want to build product. And I can understand that. I think the other side from a non-technical founder would be it's just excitement of being in the startup. You want to move, you want to go. You want to go, and by nature, you want to see things happen. So you want to get the product moving. But like, I'll give you an example. I'll give you, like, we got accepted onto the NDRC accelerator, and it's 12, 18 weeks worth of accelerator. For the first 6 weeks of that accelerator, you do nothing, only talk to customers, like nothing. Only talk to customers. So you can see what their theory is. It's you before you go any further on this journey, do you really understand the customer? Do you really understand the problem? Then we'll talk about tech. So I think people just want to get in, start to make things happen. How do I make things happen? I build product so I can sell product. I get it. But from our experience, it definitely wouldn't be the right approach.
Yeah, you're just going to end up wasting money on something that nobody wants in the end.
Just don't have enough validation at that point to prove that you've got product to market fit. So if you can start with problem solution fit and then eventually work your way towards product market fit, it's just a far better approach.
Yeah, great. And just to move on to financing, you did mention there that you would get financing off the back of customer orders on the back of a mock-up of a product.
Yeah.
And you recently, your company won HBSU funding recently, which congratulations on that, by the way. That's a big achievement. How did you find that applying for HBSU? Was it extremely difficult? Was it your first time or second time? Like, any tips on people who would be thinking about applying for it?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been in the EI ecosystem from day one. We started on New Frontiers. So we would have started on New Frontiers because we really wanted to know a bit more about not just the Irish startups ecosystem, but actually more about EI as well, and how you can sort of graduate through the EI system. So we went from New Frontiers into CSF, and we really sort of played the textbook Irish startup. Really, when you think about it, like it's New Frontiers, NDRC, CSF. And then we naturally were.
It's nearly like a built road for companies. It's
it
amazing.
is, yeah. And we took it with both hands because EI has been brilliant with us, absolutely brilliant with us. And even now we're in a pretty nasty situation at the moment, but EI are there with us. They're supporting us. They're asking us what do we need. If they've come to the table with solutions, they've come to the table. There will be more finance there. I'm pretty sure of it. So the process itself, because we were in the ecosystem, probably wasn't as challenging. They knew us. They knew what we're doing. We delivered on milestones through CSF. They'd seen us progress. So when we actually brought the application forward to HBSU, they knew us, which I think helped us, and we were able to get that part of the deal over the line pretty quickly, actually.
And then I also read that you managed to raise $500,000 from 7 customers as well, which is no mean feat.
Yeah, no, that would have been part of the round. So the total round, EI would have been a part of that, and then we had private customers and some angels come a part of that round as well, which we drew in 2 tranches. So it would have been a joint round with EI involved in it.
Yeah, and
but that point actually comes back, Mark, to the original one of bringing this to a customer who really, really wants it, and you basically having the conversation with the customer and say, well, I can't deliver this, but would you like to be a part of it? Would you like to come on this journey with me? And would you like to invest in this? And if the customer is potentially there and wants to buy this solution, well, then he believes in it. So, if they're in a position to invest, they most likely would.
Yeah, and that's great. And it's great to see that you've managed to raise so much finance for your own company, and that you have so much backing as well from customers, which is also a positive. I mean, sometimes you get investors who have no idea of your industry and they're just pumping money into your company. But it's great to see customers, because they know your industry and they know what the value of the company will bring to the world. So it's great to see that as well. The title of this show is Break Even by Breakfast, and we're kind of using it as an analogy for when your business breaks even, it's breakfast time. So in that sense, is it breakfast time for your company or lunchtime, or have you woken up yet?
No, we won't see breakfast time for probably another 12 months or so. But yeah, okay. And that's providing everything goes well. But yeah, we're tracking where we expect it to be. The next 6 months will be a challenge. Whether that we expect to be blown off course slightly, how much, boy, we just don't know yet. April was a pretty poor month for us, but May we bounced right back. So it's difficult. It's just too early to actually say just yet.
Yeah. And is there any big ticket plans in the pipeline for the next year or two? Any big goals?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So we've gone out there with a model of going direct to customer because I believe that. So I drive all the commercial side, Noel drives the operational side, and I suppose the decision to go direct to customer for me was important because I wanted that, I didn't want to give away that relationship, the direct relationship with the customer, to a partner. So if I had went, let's say, the accountant road, where I partner with the accountant and he sells into his customers, I lose that direct relationship with that customer, and therefore that's going to be negative to the platform. As in, I can't get that direct feedback. It's just it would be lost feedback that I'm going to get. So really, by building up a sales pipeline of potential direct customers. We're able to build a relationship with these guys and then get absolute feedback and understand the persona who we're trying to sell to inside out before we go to channel partner road. So now we're in a position where we can actually say, okay, we have a full understanding of who this customer is. We have a full understanding of how he operates, what type of partners he has, i.e. quantity surveyors, accountants. Now we can go and identify ideal channel partners. So we're now looking at, we've taken on a couple of partners in the UK, just starting to look at Australia. So I'm hoping that this time next year we'll have a really, really solid channel partner setup done, and we can start to scale this out across UK and Australia.
That'd be great, and hopefully it all works out for you. And this time next year you're in different markets. That would be great to see an Irish company selling in Australia and in the UK. Well, Ciaran, thanks very much for coming on the show, and I felt that was a really insightful about just your journey and how to get finance, and most importantly about whether to invest in development, which is crucial. And I think a lot of people starting tech companies, especially, make that mistake of just building without actually talking to the potential customers. So that's a great insight, and thanks for sharing that with us. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon for another episode of Break Even by Breakfast. Thanks and goodbye.